What's going on, guys? It's Greg here, aka NYPrepper. In this video, I'm going to be doing a penetration test with my Remington 870 12 gauge pump action shotgun, and I'm going to be shooting at some 16 gauge steel sheet metal with some slugs. So this is the sheet metal I'm going to be using, just regular 16 gauge sheet metal, and I have a special jig that I made to hold these sheets of sheet metal, and it spaces out the sheets about 1.5 inches apart. So I want to see how many sheets of steel 16 gauge sheet metal, various types of 12 gauge shotgun slugs will penetrate through. So I have 3 slugs here that I'm going to be using in this test. I have the Brenneke Special Forces Maximum Barrier Penetration Slug. This is a 1 3/8 ounce, 2 3/4 inch slug, and it's made of a special hard cast alloy lead. So it's not a regular slug that's soft and expands. This will actually keep its shape. And Brenneke advertises this slug to have a muzzle velocity of 1,650 feet per second and 3,545 foot-pounds. But out of my 18-inch barrel Remington 870, I've chronographed this slug, and I get around 1,190 feet per second and around 1,886 foot-pounds. And then we also have some regular slugs here. These are just regular rifled slugs. We have the Winchester Super X's. We have a 2 3/4 inch and a 3 inch. So this is what they look like. This is the 3 inch, 1 ounce Winchester Super X 12 gauge slug. This thing has a lot of power. It has that little X logo stamped on the nose of the slug. And then here's the 2 3/4 inch, also a 1 ounce slug. This one has a little hollow point in it. And the 2 3/4 inch has an advertised muzzle velocity of 1,600 feet per second for an advertised muzzle energy of 2,484. And out of my 18-inch barrel Remington 870, I've chronographed these, and I get 1,375 feet per second and 1,834 foot-pounds of muzzle energy. And for the 3-inch version, they advertise that one to go 1,760 feet per second out of the muzzle for 3,005 foot-pounds of muzzle energy. And I've chronographed these, and I get around 1,512 feet per second and 2,218 foot-pounds of muzzle energy. So I'm really curious how many of these sheets of 16 gauge steel sheet metal these slugs will penetrate through. Now, the Brenneke Maximum Barrier Penetration Slug is specifically advertised to be able to penetrate through barriers. So this is a classic barrier. Sheet metal is considered to be a classic barrier. Sheet metal is found in many different things, especially car doors and various types of vehicles. But you can see the difference in the nose from the 3-inch Super X rifled slug and the Brenneke Special Forces Maximum Barrier Penetration Slug. You can see that the Brenneke has this pointy nose, and that's supposed to help it punch through hard objects. And I have tested these slugs against 2x10 framing lumber and plywood and drywall, so I recommend you guys check those tests out. And I'll leave links in the top right corner of this video. So let me just give you guys a close-up look at my shotgun that I'm going to be using for this test. So this is a Remington 870 Tactical, and I've customized it. I put a Tac Star heat shield on it. It has an 18-inch barrel, a smooth bore barrel, okay? So that's why the velocities on those slugs are much lower than advertised, okay? So let's get started shooting and let's see what happens. Let's see how many sheets of sheet metal we can penetrate through. Alright guys, first shot's going to be with the Brenneke Special Forces Maximum Barrier Penetration Slug. Let's see what happens here. Alright guys, second shot is going to be with the Winchester Super X 3-inch regular lead slug. It's a rifled slug, 1 ounce. Let's see what happens here. Alright guys, and last shot's going to be the Winchester Super X 2 3/4 inch 1 ounce slug. This one has a little hollow point. Let's see what happens. All right, guys, pretty interesting results here. Not what I was expecting. So all 3 of them penetrated the same amount of sheet metal, only 3 sheets. I was expecting that Brenneke slug to go through at least 1 or 2 more sheets than the regular Foster rifled slugs that are just made of soft lead from Winchester. But the Brenneke Maximum Barrier Penetration Slug penetrated the same amount of sheet metal as the regular Winchester Super X 1 ounce soft lead slugs. So They all penetrated through 3 sheets and were stopped by the 4th sheet. Okay, so let's start with the Brenneke. Here was my hit with the Brenneke. You could see it tore through that sheet metal with authority. The first sheet of sheet metal, it just split some of it right there. So pretty crazy. Look at the size of that hole. I mean, that is just insane. Could you imagine getting hit by that? That would really suck. So here's the first sheet. There's the second sheet. There's the third sheet. And then here's the 4th sheet. You can see it actually just bounced right off. It just dented the 4th sheet, but it did not penetrate through, okay? But check out that wound channel. Massive hole. Look at how it just ripped up that steel. So pretty impressive. It tore through with more authority than the other slugs did. And this Brenneke slug is basically like a hard cast slug, some kind of hard alloy, and I was able to recover the slugs, so I'll show you guys what they look like in a second here. And then here was my hit with the 3-inch. So the 3-inch also only went through 3 sheets. Okay, massive hole there, check that out. It's just absolutely crazy. So here's the first sheet, second sheet, third sheet, and 4th sheet. And the 3-inch slug, not surprisingly, left the biggest dent in the 4th sheet. Look at the size of that dent there, okay? Just massive. And then here was the dent from the Brenneke, and then here was the dent from the 2 3/4 Winchester. Okay, so the 3-inch slug had the biggest dent in the 4th sheet. Look at that, guys. Actually looks like it wanted to penetrate the 4th sheet right there. Check that out. You see that little split there? That was from the 3-inch slug. So, you know, technically the 3-inch slug won this test, or won the competition, so to speak, because even though it didn't cleanly penetrate through the 4th sheet, it was the only one that actually split the metal a little bit, versus the other ones just left big dents but didn't actually split anything. Okay, but pretty interesting results. So that's about the same amount of penetration as a 44 Magnum or 10 millimeter with some Underwood Ammo Extreme penetrators. So you're getting slightly better penetration than a large caliber pistol, but you're getting still much less than a rifle. So if you want to see my rifle and pistol sheet metal tests, I'll leave a link in the top right corner to my sheet metal penetration tests playlist, where I have all of them. So slightly better penetration than most pistol calibers, but less than rifles and less than a 500 Smith & Wesson Magnum. About the same penetration as a 10 millimeter and 44 Magnum with extreme penetrators. I got 3 sheets with the 44 Magnum extreme penetrator and 4 sheets with the 10 millimeter extreme penetrator. So just to give you guys a comparison, and let me just show you the 2 3/4 inch Winchester Super X. Here was the hit. There's the second sheet. There's the third sheet. And it actually tore a huge hole in the third sheet. The hole in the third sheet is much larger than the holes from the Brenneke and the 3-inch. That's really interesting. Definitely didn't expect that. And pretty huge exit hole there in the third sheet, and it peeled back this steel. Look at how it peeled back a whole chunk of steel there. That's pretty crazy. So I'm going to take these sheets home and we'll take a closer look at them. I'll show you guys exactly what the exit holes look like, and we'll take a closer look at these sheets. But look at the dents in the fourth sheet here. Just massive bulges. It's pretty crazy. But 3 sheets of sheet metal for 12 gauge slugs, both Brenneke maximum barrier penetration slugs and regular soft lead slugs, and that's out of an 18-inch barrel tactical smoothbore shotgun. And I did find the slugs here. So these two right here were the Winchester Super X slugs. You can see they flattened out completely. They look like little silver dollars. And then here we have the Brenneke. Look at the difference between the Brenneke and the Winchester. Okay, I'm going to stand them up so you can kind of see side by side what they look like. So here's the Brenneke, and then here's one of the Winchesters. Okay, you see how it flattened out completely versus the Brenneke maintained its shape. It's still flattened out quite a bit at the nose, but maintained a lot of its shape. That's really impressive. I would love to test this slug out of a longer barrel. I think with a longer barrel, the Brenneke would do much better. But huge difference. You know, look at this slug, just flattened out completely. Just looks like a quarter or silver dollar, just totally flattened, but still penetrated the same amount as the Brenneke. It's really interesting, and I've seen this with other tests that I've done with 308, 300 Win Mag, shooting full metal jacket or soft points. It doesn't really matter, actually. It's not a huge difference. It's more about the velocity than anything else when you're trying to shoot through metal. So stay tuned, and we're going to take a closer look at these at home. I'm going to weigh these slugs. We'll see what kind of weight retention we got, but pretty interesting results here. All right, guys, so none of the slugs were able to penetrate through more than 3 sheets. That's pretty impressive for such a large projectile that's moving pretty slow. That's more penetration than the 10mm auto and 44 Magnum with soft points or hollow points. So still pretty good penetration, but nowhere near what a 308 or 300 Win Mag can do. And if you want to see those tests, I'll leave a link in the top right corner to all of my sheet metal penetration tests. So 3 sheets of 16 gauge sheet metal for all of these slugs. I was really surprised that the Brenneke didn't go through 4, possibly 5, but that it only went through 3, the same amount as the soft rifled slugs from Winchester. But that's actually to be expected, because when I did these tests with 308 and 300 Win Mag, there wasn't a huge difference between the soft points and the solids. So for whatever reason, when you're shooting at steel, it doesn't really matter a whole lot whether the bullet is solid or whether it's jacketed. It's kind of the same effect on the metal, okay? So here's the first sheet. These were the 3 hits here. This was the 2 3/4-inch Winchester Super X, the 3-inch Winchester Super X, and then here was the Brenneke. Okay, what's pretty cool is you can see from the Brenneke, you can see some of the lead was deposited there. So pretty interesting, but just massive holes. Look at how big those holes are. Those are probably 1 1/4 inch in diameter. Massive holes. Here's the back of the first sheet. And look at how the Brenneke actually split the metal. That's pretty impressive. Versus the soft slugs, they didn't really do that. They kind of just slid through. But this thing hit with such authority that it actually split the metal. Okay, that's pretty cool. Here's the second sheet. Okay, pretty interesting shape here from the 2 3/4-inch Winchester. And then here's the back of the second sheet. Check that out. Look at how it peeled back the metal. That's pretty crazy, guys. This is some thick sheet metal. This isn't thin stuff. Okay? So pretty cool. Here's the third sheet. We have pretty even holes. No real big difference between them. They're all perfectly round. And then here we have the back of the third sheet. This is the Brenneke, the 3-inch Winchester, 2 3/4-inch Winchester. You can actually see the difference between these slugs in the back of the third sheet. You can see how the Brenneke has a much smaller hole than the 3-inch and the 2 3/4-inch Winchester. And the reason why is because the Brenneke is non-expanding. Okay, it has that hard alloy. So these were already probably flattened out completely, while this one was kind of still keeping its shape. So pretty interesting. And then here we have the fourth sheet, and as you can see, none of them passed through, but they did leave pretty substantial dents in the sheet metal. Look at that, guys. That's just crazy. Let me show you the back so you can see these bulges in the back. Look at that. That is just crazy, guys. This was the 2 3/4-inch Winchester, 3-inch Winchester, and the Brenneke. And you can actually see that the 3-inch Winchester Super X almost passed through, or was wanting to pass through. Look at this little crack there, okay? So pretty interesting. You can actually see the biggest bulges were from the Winchester, and the smallest bulge was from the Brenneke. So pretty interesting results. All right, guys, here are the slugs, and I don't think I'm going to really be able to weigh them because upon closer examination, there's a lot of the sheet metal that got fused to the slugs. So we're not going to get an accurate reading with our scale. You see all these pieces of sheet metal there that got fused to the slug, but this is one of the slugs. I can't tell if this is the 3-inch or the 2 3/4. It's really hard to tell the difference. They're both 1 ounce, so there's no way to really tell. But you can see they were just completely flattened out. Look at that. And then we have these pieces of sheet metal. Here's one. Looks like a little coin. And they're fused to the slugs. Okay, so I don't think I'm going to be able to weigh these for you. And it's going to be really difficult to take these apart from the slug without actually messing up the slug and breaking up the slug into pieces. So I'm just going to leave it as it is, and you can see that the slug pretty much retained most of its weight. It just got flattened out. You see that? It just looks like basically a coin, completely flattened out, like you took a hammer and just pounded it until it was flat. Okay, you see that? And now if we look at the maximum barrier penetration slug, look at the difference. Okay, this one maintained a lot of its shape. You see that? The nose was flattened out quite a bit, but still it maintained a lot of its shape compared to these. Okay, look at the difference there. So pretty interesting. And what's interesting about this Brenneke slug is it has this plastic thing that attaches to it. So this is what it looks like without that plastic thing attached. But huge difference here. Look at that, guys. Check that out. I mean, huge difference. So I've done a lot of tests already with the Brenneke slug, and there doesn't seem to be a huge difference in penetration against hard objects with the Brenneke versus traditional rifled slugs. I'm going to have to do some more testing, but as far as wood, drywall, and metal goes, the Brenneke did not show a huge difference in penetration versus regular rifled slugs. But I will be doing more tests to confirm that. But I recommend you guys check out some of my other tests with the Brenneke slug and also my sheet metal tests. But that's pretty much it for this one, guys. Take care, God bless, and don't forget the 3 Ps. Prepare, practice, and persevere.